Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Rick Alberty. I'm the Executive Director of ChamberSOUTH, and today we're here for another version of ChamberSOUTH Spotlight. I have the honor today of speaking with Senator Alexis Calatayud. Alexis, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, who is Alexis Calatayud?
Thank you. I'm a Miami girl, born and raised in Miami. I grew up as a kid in West Kendall.
Oh, wow.
I went to Jane S. Roberts. I was really blessed to grow up really close to my grandparents. All four of my grandparents are Cuban exiles, and my grandfathers both are veterans of the Bay of Pigs, veterans of the Brigada 2506. And my mother's father was the one who dropped us off and picked us up from school. And so I spent so much time with him. And so I'm very much defined by that generation. The lessons they learned, the pain they carried. And I think we talk about in the Miami community the transfer of generational trauma.
Absolutely.
When we're thinking about the exile story, and I feel it's very sacred to carry a piece of that. So I do. I went to FIU and spent my 5.5 years as a super senior, but serving through student government. At the time of my freshman year at FIU, the state legislature, it was 2012, the state legislature after the Great Recession had reduced their investment in scholarships in higher education. My freshman year, 25% of the students at FIU lost their 4-year scholarships.
Oh my God, don't tell me that.
And we know in our community, our young people are the first in their family to go to college 50% of the time.
Absolutely.
And FIU's demographic, 60% of their students are low income. So it was devastating. And as a freshman at FIU, I went up to Tallahassee and went up to Washington to advocate for those students, for scholarships and for opportunity. And it opened up my world. And so I've spent the last 10, 12 years since I was 18 years old advocating for educational opportunity, whether that's scholarships. That transformed during COVID. I joined the Florida Department of Education, and I was their senior advocate for public education from birth through state college. And we advocated to the legislature. We engaged with all the 3 federal COVID spending plans to invest into the education system. I mean, we reopened schools. And then I ran for office immediately after that in 2022, being driven by that kind of how do we create deeper, I call it equity of opportunity. So every child has true opportunity to express their potential, which is very much connected to why my grandparents came to this country.
You're absolutely correct.
And one of the things my grandfather always said is education cannot be taken from you. And so I'm kind of the product of all of these experiences and these commitments, these compromisos to what makes this community a better place. How do we give everyone a shot to have their piece of the American dream? I think deeply that's through education. And that's through creating an environment of boundless economic opportunity, that you simply need hard work, vision, and creativity to make your entrepreneurship shine.
You know, it's amazing how something specific in your life could determine the outcome of your future.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you were thinking about politics when you were in school or if that's what you really wanted to do, but that drive that you had to help the students to be able to afford school, that was a game changer in your life, you know? That's amazing. My parents also came from Cuba. My dad also fought in the Bay of Pigs. You and I have spoken about this before. And, you know, you were lucky because your grandparents were here. I'd never met my grandparents on my father's side ever. And I met my grandparents on my mother's side 20 years into my life. So I didn't have that relationship. And that's an invaluable relationship to have as a child with your grandparents. grandparents. But they came here for a reason, to give us a better life.
Yes.
And you said several things there in your statement that your dreams can be fulfilled. That if you have the drive, if you have the knowledge, if you have the education, it's endless what you can find here in the United States and in the state of Florida. You and I were talking a little bit earlier, and you and I both know that one of the biggest issues that we have right now in South Florida is affordability. Mm-hmm. And tell me, you've already been in office for 4 years, so you've been through the ringer already. You've already gone through the learning curve. All right, you're up for reelection in November of this year for another 4 years, and I wish you the very best. I'll be voting for you if I could, but we'll talk about that soon. But tell me about affordable housing and what your vision is, and what do you think we need to do for affordable housing?
I see affordability in housing as a spectrum, almost as a continuum. The goal for me in any sort of affordability is very much connected to that economic opportunity or economic mobility ladder.
Okay. And how is that? Tell me.
So when we're thinking about economic mobility, we're thinking about folks who are working class. And ultimately, I think as a policymaker or just as a community leader, my goal is for a person to be upskilled, to gain additional skills, credentials, certificates, degrees that help them make the next jump up the economic ladder and give their kids even more leverage to continue climbing, right? And we know as the children and grandchildren of immigrants that it's in this country, it's boundless, right? But it's that education and it's that pursuit. So I think about affordability housing is the goal is to help people ultimately attain home ownership. That is the rung of economic security and asset development in this country, which matters. And it's not just a sign of the middle class, but it's a piece of the American dream. And so I created a program 4 years ago called the Hometown Heroes Down Payment Assistance Program.
Hey, tell me more about that, because a lot of people don't really know what that is. Mm-hmm. And that's an incredible program.
It is. We've formed it to be a $35,000 0% interest down payment loan program. And to date, the state has invested $300 million into this program.
Is there a cap on that?
The cap is the investment we make each year. So This past budget year, we invested $50 million. The year before, $50 million. The 2 years before that, $100 million each.
Wow.
And so I continue advocating for increased investment because only in the last 3 years, 20,000 families in Florida have bought their first home with this program. Anybody
can qualify for that program?
We have two different eligibilities.
Please.
When the program is $100 million, we have income eligibility. So it's a moderate income earner, someone that earns between 80% and 120% of an area median income. When we have a reduced investment from the state, $50 million, we have occupational eligibility. So our first responders, educators, early childhood educators, healthcare workers. We have about 15 different occupations that are eligible for the down payment assistance. So my goal is to continue fighting for increased investment from the legislature so we can continue widening the income to income eligibility rather than occupational eligibility. Because the issue I hear from families across the socioeconomic spectrum actually is, how are my children going to afford to live in Miami?
No doubt.
And not just live, right, but to establish deep roots, equity, home ownership. And this very much is a workforce recruitment and retention tool. And so when we're talking about the spectrum of affordability, my goal in affordability is for the average age to purchase a first home in Florida is 40 right now.
40 years old for
young,
the first
I was about to say young people,
buyer.
but it's really a broader group of people than that. My goal is for individuals who want to become homeowners to have the opportunity to save. When you're paying 40, 50, 60% of your take-home income to rent, you're cost prohibited not necessarily from your income, but from the reality of your lack of savings. So the down payment assistance acts as the gap, but I need people to be able to save. And it's not just for their housing, it's how they invest in their business.
Yes.
So to me, I'm very passionate about creating opportunities for workforce affordability, our moderate income earners who aspire to buy homes, but need capacity to save to invest in their businesses.
It's not easy down here in South Florida, and we all know that because, unfortunately, our mobility, our transportation is not, I'm not going to say as upscale, it's not as efficient as other states and other countries. And unfortunately, most people here have to drive. As I left my home today, I was taking a look at the buildings that are being built around me. And there's some beautiful buildings. I live in North Bay Village that are going up. And I'm looking at all the workers that are working there. And I'm saying, 5 years down the road, we need people to work in every stage of life, whether they work in the farms out in Homestead, or they work in construction in North Bay Village, or they work at your local grocery store. How are they going to survive? And you just said it. How can they become more, be able to survive and grow roots in South Florida? Mm-hmm. Affordability is a big issue. We talked a little bit earlier about right now, a lot of people say, I'm going to be building affordable homes. But you and I both know that maybe 80 to 90% of it is market-priced homes, and 10% of it mixed use with affordable homes. Right now, how can there's a lot of land out there that's available.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
So I think we have to first ask the question, who owns land in Miami-Dade County?
Okay.
The number one landowner in Miami-Dade County is Miami-Dade County government. The second is Miami-Dade County Public Schools. The third entity group is our nonprofits. Those are the top three. Before you even touch a private developer.
Nobody would imagine that. Many people don't know about that. But those are three big organizations. But go ahead.
When our community thinks about affordability, sometimes they're thinking there's no way to build affordable housing, or there's a lack of commitment from politicians, or, this will never end up happening. The way to make it possible for our working class and our moderate income earners to have housing affordability is to think about what is the cost of development. Ultra simplification, three things: land, taxes, and construction. Our county, our school district, and our nonprofits traditionally own their land outright, no mortgage. They also do not pay property taxes. And through legislation from the state that I sponsored, they're able to extend their property tax exemption to affordable or workforce housing that they develop. And so when we're thinking about the three cost drivers for development, land, property taxes, and construction, you've just knocked out two of those. And this is a conversation I have with nonprofits, with houses of worship, with our school district, and more with local governments to say, there are now tools in which you have been empowered to explore options, to make meaningful changes in what your community looks and feels like for people at every stage of life and every level of income. This is such an important issue to our business community because this is the talent, this is the service industry, this is the young people, this is the families who are making the decision, do I stay and continue renting for 5 years or do I go move to North Carolina
No
and
doubt.
buy a home. The breaking point in our community is reaching a fever pitch for a lot of families. They're right there. And so if we can work together, if we can be collaborative in our approach to the real challenges affecting our business community and the future of our economy, and also really collaboratively care about that pathway to the American dream, affordability makes the vision of homeownership possible. The new age to buy a home is 40. And maybe for some families it might be 45 and 50. The families that have used the Hometown Heroes down payment assistance to buy their first home are between 40 and 50 years old in our state.
That's amazing. That is unbelievable. And I think back, as I'm old, but I think back, I bought my first house at 29 or 30. And it was a respectable price, but then again, I had a respectable position with United Parcel Service, so I was paid well, and I was able to afford it. Nowadays, we drive by homes, and you see 5, 6 cars parked outside with families that have to live together to be able to afford that home and not rent.
The multi-generational household.
It's unbelievable here.
Which used to be simply a flavor of Miami, right? Because of our proximity of relationship, is now a financial necessity.
There's no doubt.
And you have 20 and 30-year-olds living at home with mom and dad because that was the last generation that has been able to afford to purchase. And I hear this all the time. Those same mom and dads in their maybe 40s, 50s, or 60s, they tell me, Alexis, if I had to go and buy my home again, I couldn't.
There's no doubt, especially with the prices, the way they skyrocketed after COVID. It's just unbelievable. Let me ask you a question. We just started the school year. And in the school year, everybody's back to school. Miami-Dade County and Broward County both had to consolidate the number of public schools. And it's not, people think it's just because they have the right to be able to go to any school with these vouchers. I don't think it's that. I think that maybe our birth rate is down. People are moving out. What do you think it is?
Cost of living is driving this equation. There's 3 pieces to it. 1, you have fewer kids if you can't afford them. 2, you make decisions whether to have children or not, or delay having children if you can't afford a home, or if you haven't met your financial goals. People are even delaying marriage. The third option is families are deciding their quality of life can be better somewhere else. And this is the question of talented, bright young families moving to Georgia, to Tennessee, to North Carolina. And the whole family moves because abuela and abuelo are not going to stay in Miami and stay away from los nietos, right? So you have whole families leaving Miami. I think the number one core value, Republican, Independent, Democrat of Miami, is family. And so when we make policy that helps keep families together in our community, we're doing something beyond politics. We're doing kind of the work of the most important thing in life is to be together with your family. And so policy that makes that possible is really hitting the mark.
You're absolutely correct. With Miami-Dade schools and the consolidation that they have a lot of properties right now that are shut down, not being used, probably costing them to maintain.
Correct.
Do you think that, I know that you're working hard on some kind of, legislation to have them give that to developers for building.
To clarify, we're empowering all levels of government.
Okay.
With options. So what we really want to do in this moment of demographic change around the country, declining birth rate, declining enrollment, and the reality that Miami-Dade County Public Schools has announced publicly that they are consolidating or closing 60 schools. What we want to do is empower the school district with the optionality to develop for their workforce. And this is actually something that the Jackson public health system is doing. They're on the cutting edge of this. So Jackson is already gotten approved from the Public Health Trust. So I serve on the Public Health Trust and the County Commission. They're converting a parking lot in the health district to 800 units.
Wow.
And 80% of the units are going to be moderate and low income.
And for their workforce?
Completely for their workforce. So it's first Jackson, second UHealth, third any healthcare worker. And this is a type of workforce-inspired housing that makes it tenable for a janitor at Jackson to work for them. And they live across the street. So these are the type of options that we've created for the school district to utilize. And so the goal for me is options and empowerment, because we have tremendous challenges and we have tremendous opportunities.
So some of those properties right now are within the urban development boundaries, but people want to push out past the urban development boundary. Tell me a little bit about that.
This legislative session, we had legislation filed in the House of Representatives, but not in the Senate, that would have reduced the county commission votes necessary to move the urban development boundary. It would have reduced the vote threshold from a supermajority of all the county commissioners to a simple majority of any commissioners present.
Oh, my God.
Which would have unleashed a tremendous wave of approvals of moving the urban development boundary in the West and in the South. I believe smart development is the only development that should happen. And so reckless overdevelopment that creates urban sprawl, we have to say no. And so I led the charge in Tallahassee. I brought together the Miami senators. We sat with the Senate president and said, this needs to be the position of the Senate. We will not change the votes required to move the urban development boundary. The Senate president completely committed to us that he was with us. And so the last days of session are when the squirrely things happen. And so the bill came over from the House of Representatives. And as soon as it came to the Senate, I raised my hand, filed an amendment to destroy that policy, and receive unanimous support, Republicans and Democrats.
That's excellent.
To preserve the urban development boundary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This is the work. This is the work we should expect of our delegation. We need to be of one mind on the issues that matter, whether that's affordability, whether that's environmental stewardship, whether that's the future of high quality education and opportunity for all. I mean, there are things that they're not political. They're just the right things to do.
It's common sense. Really common sense. I mean, if you think about common sense, you can get an answer for just about anything. Because a lot of people see the Everglades as opportunistic land to build on. And that's our water. That's what we drink. That's the water that gets filtered all the way from Lake Okeechobee almost all the way down to the Keys. Mm-hmm. So if we keep moving more and more boundaries and building more homes out there, look at Weston. How many problems do they have out there with gators and everything? Because we're in their land. Yeah. We really are. I mean, I lived there for a long time. It was great, but I lived in Davie, very close to Weston. But it's amazing how important it is to keep that boundary sacred. Right.
And you know, it made me think, there's a couple things that are sacred for our community. Keeping families together is one. I think we have now a wholesale commitment both to the Everglades and to Biscayne Bay. And then I think third, there's not a diaspora, immigrant, or exile group that doesn't believe in the value of education. Right. This is a community who understands the one equalizer is education. And as demographic changes do affect Miami-Dade County Public Schools, I am deeply committed to helping build the future of our public education system. Miami is the example for the state, and frankly, Miami can and should be the example to the nation. We don't just compete with large school districts and blue states. We can compete with Singapore. We can compete on the world stage. Our kids have boundless potential, and we need to use this change, all of these international demographic changes and our national and statewide demographic changes as a reset moment. And I'm deeply committed to that, bringing together the best minds and collaboratively building what can give our children the best opportunity to express their potential.
That's great. That's awesome. And, we appreciate everything you've done for us. You are the Florida State Senator in District 38. Tell me about your district. What are the boundaries of your district?
I represent 550,000 people. Key Biscayne, Coconut Grove, Coral Gables, South Miami, Pinecrest, Palmetto Bay, Cutler Bay, the Homestead Air Reserve Base. Over to the west of US 1, I represent the zoo area, Naranja, South Miami Heights, Princeton, Goulds, West Perrine, Richmond Heights, the Falls where I live, East Kendall, Killian, Dadeland, Glenver Heights, and the Sunset area.
So you represent where all the action is happening right now, because all the growth is South Dade. You mentioned some affluent areas and some non-affluent areas right now. So you've got a great balance there of, I'm going to call issues. I'm going to call them challenges, because you've got certain things happening now in the affluent communities that could affect them with the property tax amendment that people are going to be voting on in November. We won't touch that one today, but down south with everything happening, you got space happening. You got a new stadium happening in Homestead that's going to house 2 professional women's soccer teams. You got the raceway down in Homestead. You've got what's happening in Cutler Bay with the Southland project. You have a lot going on in South Dade. It's Sunset Place that'll be coming right here in South Miami. I mean, it is unbelievable how much is happening in South Dade. And I think that the reason why a lot is happening in South Dade, because there's still some affordability possibilities down deep south, but there's also the area to still develop wisely, and try to make it a location where people can not only live, but work, play, and go to church there as well. Yeah. Because right now, one of our biggest transportation issues is the people down south have to drive north to find a job and then drive back south to go home. Right. So you got your hands full. Yeah. I love it, because I think adding to the socioeconomic diversity is the political diversity, the ideological diversity. My district is represented 37% Republicans, 31% independents, 32% Democrats. And what I've found is while you have tremendous socioeconomic diversity and political ideology differences, we have the same core values. And those are the ones I mentioned before. And I know this because I worked on 3 campaigns before I ran myself, and I knocked 10,000 doors on each of those campaigns. Oh, wow. And then in my first election in 2022, I knocked on 10,000 doors for myself. And I'm knocking doors now. But all in all, it's something like 43,000 doors in these neighborhoods over the last 7 years. So, one, you see issues exacerbate over time. Cost of living is number one. No surprise. But what people care about, Democrat, Independent, Republican, very, very affluent, very, very low income, they are the same core values. They're asking for the same opportunities, the same things. And so I love this community, not just because I grew up in it. And I also think if we can solve or meaningfully address the challenges of our time in Miami, we address the challenges the nation is seeking to address. And whether you're thinking about
the leadership that's come from Miami in the past. We think about, we have a Secretary of State from Miami. We have a federal delegation that's played a big role in shaping what's happening in Latin America from Miami. We have so many different voices that have affected the national stage from our community. I think we are the most fertile ground in the country to answer the questions of affordability, of environmental stewardship, of world-class education for all. If we can come together, bring our minds together, and come from the place of shared values, we can build truly the future of the nation.
I agree 100%. And, that just leads me into my next question. Miami right now, there's so much influx of high net worth individuals coming to live down here.
Right.
And you know what? They're changing not just our cost of living, but they're changing the way Miami is viewed nationwide.
Yes.
And really by the world in reality. Because every time I travel, everybody wants to come to Miami. So I think that you just hit the nail on the head. We could definitely be the starting point for change, not only in the state of Florida, but as a nation completely. But I think that one of the things that you mentioned to me earlier was that, it's unfortunate that there's a lot of high, very popular billionaires moving into our state, and especially South Florida, but the philanthropic dollars are not following that. Could you like to highlight a little bit on that, please?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we have the example of a difference, which kind of sets the tone for what could be the future of philanthropic engagement. I think Mr. Ken Griffin has set the standard of having an agenda: upward mobility, education, science and medicine, community building, on and on. And he's made strategic investments into some of the most important institutions in our community. I hope to see others follow the tone that he's set. Because as much as we're talking about family before, what connects us to this place, we hope that our new residents anchor themselves into our core value set. And what Miamians do is build something, right?
For sure.
We get planted from all over the world. We're seeds from all over the world. When we get to Miami, we flourish. We leave dictatorships. We live authoritarian, totalitarian regimes. We leave economic disaster. We come to Miami, we flourish. And so we invite all of our new friends to flourish with us, to plant seeds, plant their seeds. They have more seeds than other people. Fantastic. But that's what this community is. That's what we do.
That's exactly right. So diverse.
I think what Mr. Griffin's doing is setting the tone for how people with a little bit more seeds can make investments. But whether that's in the U Health system, whether that's in Nicholas, whether that's in environmental stewardship, whether that's in the scholarships he's provided to Miami-Dade College for first-generation college students, because his father was a first-generation college student. These are things that matter to us. These are things that speak to our values. And so I do hope deeply, and I think there's a lot of people working on this, that our new residents find their connection points to who we are as a community and become agents of transformative change.
Well, Senator Calatayud, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day today.
Thank you.
Sitting here with me. For those of you out there that are in District 38 in November, you heard it first, Alexis Calatayud, make sure that's the person you vote for. Carolee deeply cares about our values, about our state, about our education, and more than anything about family. So make sure you vote there. So, Senator, on 3, we're going to say goodbye to that little camera right there. 1, 2, and 3. Goodbye, everyone.